All right, I've got a question here from Melissa, but before we go into that. All right. Okay, so Melissa says, how does a person meet their own energy needs without going into energy deficit throughout life, without continually calculating calories and worrying about whether they're eating enough? How does someone keep track of calories without obsessing about them and without constant calculating? As you're aware, the eating disorder loves calculating. Any suggestions? Yes. So it is often a stepping stone or a stage in recovery to count calories to make sure that you're getting X amount in of calories as a minimum, right? That should be a stepping stone. And I'll tell you why. It's because, like you said, eating disorders love to count calories, and eating disorders love to rely on this information that we think that we have from counting calories. Look, I mean, it's bullshit. Because even if you count calories, that's not true anyway, because calorie labels are always out. I think the statistic is that they're between 25 and 50% out on whatever is on the label and calorie, either way. And also the way that we all digest food is different for every person. I cited in my book a study from Israel where they'd given thousands of people the exact same foods, like every mealtime for quite a long period of time. And everybody's sort of blood sugar levels and what they took out of those foods were different, even though they're eating the exact same thing. So it's a false sense of security, but it is a sense of security. It feels safe. It feels safer. Even if you're eating a large amount of food, it feels safer if you think you know exactly what you're eating. And the reason it feels safer is because you don't trust your body, not really. You're like, I have to calculate everything and I have to know exactly what's going in and what's out. And the other reason it feels safer is because you have this belief that if you know, it's calories in, calories out. You have this belief that if you eat more than your energetic needs in a day, you're going to gain weight. And that's massively disrespectful to the human body. Our bodies want to remain at their optimally healthy weight. And so if you eat more than you need or expend in a day, then your body just metabolizes it. It doesn't necessarily gain weight unless it wants to for whatever reason. And if your body wants to gain weight, then it probably needs to for whatever reason, not up for us to judge. So either way, counting calories, even if you're eating a relatively large amount, can make you feel safe. And it is a false sense of security, and you don't actually need it. Because say, for example, you've been eating X amount of calories every day. You know what that feels like. Like, you approximately know that feels like. If you've been eating a really kind of nice, big, robust breakfast, and the reason you've been eating this nice, big, robust breakfast is because you calculated the amount of calories that you're allowed or supposed to have at breakfast, and that nice, big, robust breakfast suits that. If you stop counting calories, you know that a measly bowl of cereal isn't going to cut it. You probably, you know, you can make it, you don't have to count calories to be able to mentally compare, is this plate of food roughly look similar to what I've been having in the past? You really don't. And that feels scary though, to do that, because you want to know exactly, because you're like, no, I need to know exactly because, you know, I might overeat. That's actually the fear. So even if you're counting calories because you're saying, I'm counting calories to make sure I don't undereat, it is never about that. It is always about being scared of overeating. Because say if you've been eating, you know, same breakfast, it's on a meal plan or it's calorie counted, and you've been eating the same breakfast for ages and ages and ages, and then you're like, right, I'm not going to count calories anymore, I'm just going to eat what I want, and you make a breakfast that's not exactly the same items on it, but it's like, it feels different. You know if it's in the same ballpark of amount of food of what you've been having before. And if there is any doubt in your mind, any doubt at all, that it's less, you should just eat more food. You don't need to count calories. You should just eat more food. But the reason that that's scary is because you're like, well, I might be wrong. It might not be less. And if it's not less, then I actually just then eat even more. That is why you're scared of doing that. It is always about you're being scared of eating too much. Because if you weren't scared of eating too much, if there was any doubt in your mind that you'd eaten enough that day, you would just eat more food. And it really can be that simple. And I do stand by there is no such thing as too much food, because if you're sitting there wondering, don't know if I ate enough food today, you probably didn't eat enough food. It really is that simple. Because I don't sit there wondering, like, every day, oh, I wonder if I ate enough. If I had the thought, I wonder if I ate enough food, I would just get up and eat more food. It's because I no longer have an eating disorder, so it no longer feels complicated. It isn't complicated. And I do often compare this to other bodily functions. But that, honestly, that question is a bit like saying, without measuring how much I pee every time, how do I know if I'm peeing enough? If you've been for a pee and there's any doubt that you peed it all out, you would just pee more. Just pee more. If you've eaten a meal and there's any doubt that you didn't eat enough food, you eat more. And I know that, and I used to say it myself when I had anorexia, I used to be like, well, I just don't know. I can't calculate. I don't know. That was never fucking true. I always knew I was under eating, actually. I always kind of knew. And I can't speak for everybody. It might absolutely be true that some people are just like, yeah, I'm entirely oblivious that 2 rice cakes with cottage cheese is not enough food. Like, there might really be some people, but if you're kind of relatively intelligent, you can look around and be like, oh, I'm eating a lot less than everybody else. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out, like, I probably don't eat enough food. So for me personally, it never really was about that I didn't know how to eat, although I might have told people that along the way. I absolutely knew how to eat. I was just scared of it. I was scared of eating too much, and I was scared of gaining weight. And it's always those two things that are at the bottom of making anything to do with food complicated, because eating is not complicated. But when you are scared of gaining weight and you're scared of eating too much food, it becomes massively complicated because you feel like there's exact equation that you need to meet. And part of recovery is showing yourself that that is not true by being brave and just, without even knowing how much you've already eaten, eating more food. That is what's it about. That's neural rewiring there for you. You know, that feeling when you're like, oh, I'm going to eat more food and I don't even know how much I've eaten. It feels scary and it feels freeing and it feels all the things at the same time. It's because you're treading on new ground. That's why it feels scary and freeing and all the things at the same time. And if you keep doing that often enough, that doesn't become new ground anymore. It just becomes normal. And that becomes you having a relationship with your own body. There is no excuse for undereating. There is no excuse for losing weight. Because if you have any doubt that you didn't eat enough food, you just eat more. And you always kind of know. And sometimes that doubt feels good. And you're not allowed to let it. Hope that helps.